Have you ever really, and I mean really, stopped to think about that dollar in your pocket? Not just what you can buy with it, but what it actually is? Well, today we're going on a trip to uncover the hidden story of money. We're going to look at the powerful groups that have controlled it for a century and the wild, revolutionary tech that's now trying to break it free. And believe me, this goes way beyond just finance. This is about the future of your privacy and maybe even your freedom. Okay, let's get into it.
So, here's the plan for today. First, we're going to start at the very beginning and ask what money even is. Then, we'll pull back the curtain on the traditional, centralized system. Who's really pulling the strings. After that, we dive into the decentralized alternative that's flipping the whole game on its head. We'll look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of this new financial world, and then we get to the main event, the potential showdown with a government-backed digital dollar.
All right, Section 1. Let's tackle that first big question. What is money? You probably think of cash or maybe the numbers you see in your bank app, but what if I told you that's just the surface? The real story is, well, it's a lot weirder and way more interesting than you might think.
I know, it sounds like a trick question, right? It's a piece of paper, a coin, a number on a screen. Simple. But here's the thing. When you trace that dollar all the way back to its source, you're not going to find a giant vault of gold bars. You find something much more abstract. You find a ledger.
And this, right here, is the absolute core of it all. The entire global financial system is basically just a massive, interconnected spreadsheet. That's it. When you get your paycheck, someone just types a number into your column on the spreadsheet. The physical cash you might pull out of an ATM, that's just a paper receipt for your entry on that ledger. It's a token, a promise. It's a symbol of trust in the people who manage that spreadsheet.
And this is where your mind kind of starts to bend a little. If most money is already just ones and zeros on a computer, that means it can be created literally with a keystroke. No printing presses needed, no digging gold out of the ground, just a decision by a few people to add some more zeros to the global ledger. And that brings up the most important question in finance. Who gets to hold the pen?
Which brings us perfectly to Section 2. Because for the last 100 years or so, the answer to who holds the pen has been very, very clear. It's a top-down, centralized system that controls the flow of money for the entire planet.
Think of it like a wheel. Right there in the middle, the hub, you've got the central bank. In the US, that's the Federal Reserve. They are the ultimate keepers of the ledger. They set the rules for everybody. And then, spreading out from that center, you have the spokes, all the commercial banks you know and use, operating within the rules that the hub sets.
So, how do new entries get made on this ledger? Well, imagine you want to buy a house. You go to a bank, you get a mortgage. Now, the bank doesn't have a giant pile of cash in a vault that they hand over to you. Nope. They just open your account and type in the loan amount. And poof, just like that, new money has been created out of thin air as debt. It's a really powerful and kind of mind-blowing concept when you let it sink in.
But that's not the only way money gets made. As this source points out, the central bank has the ultimate power. They can inject money directly into the system, creating trillions of dollars with, you guessed it, a few keystrokes. Now, during a big crisis, this makes them the only ones who can save the system from total collapse. But having that kind of power has some pretty massive consequences for the rest of us.
Now, one perspective on this, and it's a strong one, is that this much concentrated power is dangerous. It can lead to inflation that just eats away at your savings. That's the financial tyranny our source is talking about. But the other side of that coin is that this exact same power is what's used to stop massive economic depressions and keep things stable. It's this fundamental tug-of-war between control and freedom, and it's been at the very center of economics for a long, long time. And it's that very trade-off that led some people to ask a pretty radical question. What if we could just get rid of that central hub altogether? What if instead of one person holding the pen to the ledger, we all held a copy and we all watched it at the same time? That is the absolutely revolutionary idea behind blockchain.
So what in the world is a blockchain? At its heart, it's really just a new type of ledger, but it has two incredible superpowers. First, it's distributed, which means that thousands of computers all over the world hold an identical copy. There's no single server you can attack. And second, it's immutable, which is just a fancy way of saying it's permanent. Once a transaction is on there, it's locked in forever using some seriously complex math.
Let's just walk through it real quick. Let's say I want to send you some crypto. My request gets blasted out to the entire network of computers. Thousands of these independent computers all check their copy of the ledger to make sure I actually have the funds to send.
Once enough of them agree that, yep, this is legit, my transaction gets bundled into a new block, which then gets chained on to the last one. And boom, you've got a permanent, public record that no one can ever go back and change.
And this quote just brilliantly explains why it's so secure. Think about it like a prisoner. If you have one guard, maybe they fall asleep, maybe they get bribed. But what if you had 1 million people watching that prisoner from every possible angle, all the time? It would be almost impossible for him to get away because there are just too many eyeballs on him. That's blockchain. Trust isn't in a bank anymore. It's spread out across the entire network.
So if we have this new kind of ledger that nobody controls, what can we actually build on top of it? Well, that brings us to Section 4, decentralized finance, or what everyone calls DeFi. And this is a world with some unbelievable promise, but also some really significant danger.
DeFi is basically the idea of rebuilding our entire financial system. Lending, borrowing, trading, you name it, but without any of the middlemen, without the banks. The source material compares it to a self-service kiosk at a restaurant. You don't need a cashier to take your order anymore. You just interact directly with the system. DeFi lets people deal directly with each other through code that's totally transparent, which can cut down fees and wait times like crazy.
So on the one hand, the benefits are pretty obvious, right? Things are faster, they're cheaper, and there's no central boss who can freeze your account or change the rules on you. But the risks on the other side are just as real, and it's absolutely crucial that we understand what we're getting into. Let's dig into those.
And look, these risks are not just theories. We've seen it happen. Entire crypto projects worth billions turn into digital ghost towns practically overnight because some newer, better tech came along. We've seen people lose their life savings in just a few hours because of the insane price swings. But maybe most important is this. When things go wrong in DeFi, and they do, there's no one to call. There's no FDIC insurance. There's no government bailout. As the source says, be careful what you wish for. In this world, you are your own bank, for better and for worse.
Now, this fast, chaotic explosion of decentralized finance has definitely not gone unnoticed by the old guard. They can see the writing on the wall. They know the future is digital, and now they're preparing their countermove, setting the stage for what could be an epic battle for the very soul of money.
You know the saying, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em? Well, in this case, it's more like, if you can't beat 'em, build your own version and make it the law. That seems to be the thinking of central banks around the world. They're developing their own digital currencies, called central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. You can just think of it as an official digital dollar. It's an attempt to get the speed and efficiency of crypto, but keep all the centralized control of the old system.
For governments, the appeal here is massive. But let's look past the efficiency part for a second and really think about what complete transaction visibility actually means. I want you to imagine a world where every single thing you buy is recorded on a government ledger. Every cup of coffee, every subscription, every single donation. Sure, that could be a huge weapon against crime and tax evasion, but it could also mean the complete and total end of financial privacy. This tech could create programmable money, money that could be designed to expire if you don't spend it, or money that could be blocked from buying things the government doesn't approve of. It's that classic fight between security and freedom, but the technology has raised the stakes higher than ever before.
So, here we are. We're standing at a massive fork in the road in the history of money. And this lays out the choice perfectly. Down one path, you've got a decentralized future, where we are all our own banks, with all the freedom and all the risk that comes with it. And down the other path is a centralized future, where every transaction is known to the government, with all the security and all the surveillance that implies. These are two totally opposite visions for our digital lives. The code for the future of money is being written as we speak. So the final question isn't just about who will control our money, it's about what that control will turn us into. Will we be empowered individuals in a freewheeling, decentralized world, or will we be obedient citizens in a perfectly monitored system of total financial surveillance? The technology is here. The choice is coming.